Hello and welcome to the Thank You for Knitting podcast. My name is Alana and I'm a knitwear designer and yarn shop owner living in Auckland, New Zealand. So today is episode number 18 of the regular podcast where I share about my projects, my knitting. I have a couple of finished objects. I've got a couple of new whips and things I've made a bit of progress on since the last time. So before we get into that, I will tell you what I'm wearing. It's the time of year here where some days have been very, very hot and other days still kind of cool. So today is a little bit of a cool day. I'm wearing a cardigan that I knit quite a few years ago. It is the Comfort Fade Cardi pattern by Andrea Mowry. So apparently I knit this in March, April of 2020. And yeah, I've had it for quite a few years. I really, really like this cardigan. It has an open front, obviously, no buttons, and a pretty wide shawl collar. I hope you can see. And the main sort of style feature, I guess, is that you're fading colors throughout the cardigan. I'll stand up and show you so you can see a little bit better my colors. Especially on the back. So hopefully you can see that. It's a bit of an awkward angle to be standing up. But basically, yeah, I used Malabrigo Rios for every color except for the final color. This orange color is called Peach Bellini and it's Fyberspates Vivacious DK. They're both 100% superwash merino DK weight, so I guess they call Malabrigo Rios a worsted weight. But regardless, I found that these two yarns were very, very similar in texture and worked well together. And the other colors I used are Illusion, Niebla, Playa, and Cirrus Gray. Cirrus Gray. Cirrus Gray is the main color. It's more of a bluey gray. And I guess that's the main modification that I made to the pattern. In her original pattern, which you will have seen if I inserted a photo, the shawl collar is also fading through the colors. Now, I ended up just having quite a lot of the Cirrus Gray. I bought it from someone on a D-stash years ago, and I had more than enough of that color, and I had not quite enough of the other colors, so I chose to just make the entire collar one color, and I actually am really glad about that. I think if it was blending colors, it would just be overall a very colorful cardigan, and I like that this one is kind of anchored with this one color in the collar. So that's the main modification I made, and otherwise I would have just followed it to pattern. What I like about fading with yarn in this way is you're basically just striping at different intervals, and on the inside it looks more like stripes, but then you wear this cardigan with the purl side out, and so it looks less like stripes and more like a blend of color. So I just think it's really pretty, and yeah, love this cardigan. Okay, let's move on to the knitting. So finished objects first. I believe I have 3 finished objects. The first one is my Felix sweater by Amy Christoffers, and this is one that I showed you last time. I had started it as a sample for a new yarn that we have in the shop called Spinning Yarns Weaving Tales Dooish. It is a tweedy wool yarn, woolen spun, and it really blooms with washing and blocking. So I was very eager to make a sample right away so I could see how this yarn behaved, and it's very, very nice. It really changes with blocking like I expected that it would. My color is number 3792 Carrigeen, and yeah, let me show you the sweater. So I know it looks a little bit small, but I intentionally made it to be very cropped and more fitted because I wanted it to be something you could wear with high pants or especially with a high skirt or a dress that kind of goes out quite a bit at the bottom, so that your sweater is more tight at the top and it's meant to be cropped and really only just go to the sort of natural waistline. So definitely achieved that. And I knit the smallest size of the pattern, and I only had 3 skeins of the yarn. I only used 3 skeins of the yarn. I actually used less than 3. I have not yet weighed my leftovers, but I had a decent amount left over of the 3rd skein, so very yarn economical, this kind of a project. And the main needle is a 6mm needle. And so this yarn, which is listed as a worsted weight, I think can definitely cross over into that more Aran weight territory, borderline bulky, because it really filled out the gauge on the 6mm needle. I'll try to show you up close. So the fabric got softer, it got a little fuzzier, not quite fuzzy, but as I mentioned last time, this yarn is sold in the oil, so they haven't done the final washing process post spinning. So then when you wash your garment, you really get a lot of that difference. And yeah, this yarn has really bloomed into the gauge and just into a really lovely fabric. So very, very happy with this garment. It's a very easy pattern. The increases are built into this cute little lace detail. So it's just very easy to do. I definitely could knit this in less than a week if I was just focusing on it. So very quick knit, very easy. Great pattern. I've also made the cardigan version before. And that's it. That's my Felix pullover. Okay, my next finished item are this pair of socks that I knit for a friend. Let me put them on a sock blocker real quick. I'm pretty sure I already had one of these finished last time in the last episode, but now they're officially finished. So now they are a pair, but here they are. And as always, I used my vanilla pattern, Black Cat Favorite Socks. However, this one I used the Opal DK weight, the thicker sock yarn. So I did adapt the numbers to suit the DK weight yarn. I don't have a specific pattern or notes for that. It's just something that I customize based on my pattern. At some point I may put out a DK version of this pattern or even add that to the existing pattern. But in the meantime, I've just adapted it so that I use 40 stitches on a 3.25mm needle for the DK yarn. And the color of this is Winterduft 11431. And like I said, it's the Opal DK weight, so all the patterning is done in the yarn, which makes it super easy. I knit these for a friend and I'm gonna be seeing her next week, so happy about that. There's the other one. And that is my second finished object. Oh yeah, and these were my October socks. So I'm pretty well on track now for my pair of socks per month. So along the same lines of socks, my third finished object is another pair of socks. These were my June socks, but I finished them during October. We just had our 6th annual Socktober knit along, and I always do a bit more sock knitting during that month than I normally do. So I caught up on most of my socks. So this is my June pair, and I did the tops a little differently, and I really like how cute this is. So as always, this is my vanilla pattern, Black Cat Favorite Socks. The size I usually do is, I think it's the size small in the pattern. I have to double check that. It's the 56 stitch version. And I have this yarn from Mrs Peacock Yarns. It's a self-striping yarn. And the color of this one is Amberlight. And the little mini skein is called Firebird. So I got this yarn from her at Woolfest this year, I'm pretty sure. And I just ended up, this is the sock. This is the other one. Just to show you, I made 2. And what I did for the top this time was I ended up thinking it would look cute as a shorty. And I don't know, I decided to do this little rolled edge, which I really like. I think I'll repeat this in the future. So I just did stockinette running right up to the edge. I originally tried to just bind off extra loosely with a standard bind off, and then it was too tight. So I have reconfirmed for myself that I always pretty much need to do a stretchy bind off at the top of a toe up sock, especially on my sock pattern, because my sock pattern has a bit more negative ease built into it than a lot of sock patterns, which is a fit that I much prefer. But it just means that I definitely need a stretchy bind off. So I undid that and I did Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off at the top. And then you just have this cute little rolled edge. and I really like how that looks. So yeah, I will definitely be repeating that rolled edge in the future. That is my third finished object, my June socks, knit on a 2.5mm needle as always. As of yet, these are probably just for me. I am starting to get to the point in my sock knitting life where I have so many hand knit socks already that I'm starting to make them as gifts for people a little bit more often, because I don't need 100 pairs of hand knit socks myself. I already have at least, I think, 25 or 30 pairs. That's probably as many as I need. That's probably more than I need. So I'm starting to think more about gifting these to people, which is quite fun. But that's my June socks. So I'm all caught up on socks, nearly. I haven't cast on my November ones, and I'm partway through my July ones, which I'll show you shortly. But other than that, I am very close to being caught up, which is nice. So that's it for finished objects, but I want to show you one more thing before we move on to whips. This is kind of a finished object. Well, I'll explain. Okay, this is a top that I actually knit quite a few years ago. It looks like I knit this in 2022, and I never wore it even once because I just made the body too short, and or maybe I wore it once or twice, but the body was too short. I had leftover yarn. I just ended up shoving it in a cupboard for later, and I always had the intention to come back and make the body a little bit longer, but it just sat there for, I don't know, 3 years. And finally, I mean, now we're coming into summer, so I just decided to pull it out of the cupboard and take the time to add the length to the body. And I think it was just 2 evenings that I was able to do it, so I mean, very quick and easy. So now I have a new top that I knit 3 years ago, but now I will actually hopefully wear it because it is long enough. So that's kind of nice. So the pattern is the Collett Tee by, I don't know how to say this, Witre Designs or Witre Designs, I don't know. I'll write it on the screen. But I used this Holst Coast. This is what I have left over. And I have the color Cassis and the color Fig. So Coast is their wool cotton blend, so it's 55% lamb's wool, 45% cotton. You actually get 350 meters per little 50-gram cake, which is pretty awesome. It's 700 meters per 100 grams, but it knits to me like a fingering weight, even though the meterage sounds closer to a lace weight. So I held one strand of each of these colors together for a slightly marled effect, and I knit the shirt on a 4mm needle, so it definitely came out at, you know, like a DK gauge, which is what you would normally achieve with 2 strands of fingering weight, but the meterage on this one is really, really good. So I only had 2 cakes of each color, and I only used, well, I have to reweigh it now that I've added, but in my original estimation, I only used 1.5 cakes per color of yarn. So very, very, again, very yarn economical, this project in that yarn. It's not a yarn we have at the shop. It's one back then that I would have ordered directly from Holst, which is in another country. I don't remember right now where. But all of the talking aside, this is my Collett Tee. So I haven't reblocked it yet, so you will be able to see, I think, at the bottom how it looks a bit different, but this is it. So it has kind of a high neck. It's a double folded, but not that tall neck. It just sits a little bit up, which I very much like the style of. It's a really lovely sleeve shaping. I ended up leaving my sleeve edges raw because I like the look of that. It originally has ribbing in it, and I originally left the bottom edge raw too, but I didn't like how much it was rolling up. And so now that I've gone back, I have added a little bit of ribbing. So I put a stitch marker in so you could see this was the original length of the shirt. So I've added about 2.5 inches to it in total with the stockinette and the ribbing. And I don't know if you can see the difference, but this yarn, similarly to the spinning yarns, weaving tails, it changes a lot when you block it. So I don't know if you can see, but this is very soft and the fabric is very flat and even. And down here, the stitches look messier and they feel a little rougher and they're just not settled in. So this yarn transforms a lot with blocking as well, which is really nice. As I say, I have not reblocked it yet, but I will, and then I'll be able to wear it shortly. So yeah, it's an old finished object, but it feels like a new one because, I mean, I never wore it and now I have a new shirt to wear, which is pretty nice. This is also my plug to say, I don't know about you, but I knit constantly, and yet I will have garments that have very small fixes that I'd like to make, but they might sit there for years without me fixing them. So I guess this is my plug to say, if you have an item that you've made and it just has a small thing that you would like to adjust, I think it's worth doing because, like I say, that took me, I think, 2 evenings, not that much time. And now it feels like I have a new item rather than something sitting in the cupboard for 3 years straight. So very happy that I got that done. Okay, so I have a little bit of progress on a couple of things, and then I have 2 projects you've never seen before. And then I actually want to talk a little briefly at the end about sewing, which I've been doing a little bit of lately. So quickest thing first. Okay, quickest thing will be my July socks. So, I mean, I have not made a tremendous amount of progress on these, but here we are. So this is my only lingering sock whip now that I've finished all those other 3 pairs last month. And once again, it's my vanilla pattern, Black Cat Favorite Socks. That is forever what I knit because I've memorized the heel and I love the fit. And this is using a self-striping yarn that I got from Katrine, who works here and who is the yarn dyer behind Yarnfloozy yarns. So that's a beautiful one-off color of her self-striping sock yarn. And then I ended up grabbing this yarn from my stash. I used this in a previous sock project and I had left over. So this is the Retrosaria Mondim, which I believe is 100% Portuguese wool. 100% Portuguese wool, no nylon, but it's a sturdy sock wool. And I just liked the match of color for the heel. So I didn't do it on the toe, I just started the striping one. But on the heel, I've got my Retrosaria kind of navy blue heel, and then I'm going to add it to the cuff as well. So I'm nearly finished with the first one, and then I just have to knit the second one. And I have some plane rides coming up, so that might be an opportunity for that. And then after that, all I have left to do is cast on my November socks, my December socks, and then that will be a year of socks done. Okay, the next project that warrants a quick update is my Plumeria tank top. This is a pattern by Alongavec Anna, and I have essentially paused on this and I am probably going to rip it out, but I want to mention why. So firstly, I'm using the Kremka Soul Wool Morning Salutation yarn. This was a new range that we got in just recently for this new summer season. It's kind of falling apart, but I have these 2 colors. It comes in beautiful colors and it's a really interesting feeling yarn. It is a blend of tencel, 51% tencel, 49% cotton, and so it's got a really lovely texture and a little bit of a color marl, which I like too. And so I've got the color 7 and the color 8. They are not incredibly high contrast. They are, well, I mean, they're actually incredibly low contrast. But I liked them both together. This was a little too vibrant and then this was a little too dark, and I thought I would stripe them together. And I've been kind of into this low contrast stripe look recently. I'm also knitting another shirt in a low contrast stripe. That one has been slow going because it's on a 3mm needle, but I will have inserted a photo at some point. Plumeria tank top. It is a very high neck tank top with a kind of angle like this, and then, yeah, stripes. So I think this is more or less where I was last time I showed you. This is the neckline, and then I'm just increasing the front piece, and then there will be ribs along the sides as well. So the reason I'm considering frogging this is this edge is super neat and tidy, but this edge is a mess because that's where I'm doing my stripes. And I'm holding the yarns and I'm twisting them and I'm trying to do what I normally do with stripes, but I think partly because it's a plant fiber yarn, it's kind of slippery and I'm just getting a lot of gaps and holes, and I'm not looking how rough that edge is looking, and it's going to be right in the front of the garment. So for that reason, I sort of stopped working on this because I was debating what to do with it. I'm pretty confident now that I am going to frog this, The only thing I'm not sure about is whether I will rip it out to the neckline and then knit it in one color, or I'm also debating just ripping it out completely and knitting a t-shirt, because I do wear more t-shirts than tank tops anyway. I was interested in the idea of trying a new thing with this tank top. It is a style of tank top that I would like, but it's still a bit of a gamble because I don't really wear a lot of tank tops, and I do wear a lot of t-shirts. So I'm showing you this partly because you probably won't see it again in this form. I will either redo the pattern in a different way, or I will pick a different pattern, something like that. So undecided, but next time you'll see something different from that, I'm guessing. Okay, I just have 2 more projects to talk about, and they are both ones that you haven't seen before. The first one is one that I talked about last time as a plan, and I actually did this plan. I was confident talking about it because I knew I wanted to make it. So, and this one, in contrast to my other summer project, this one is going very well, and I've made a lot of progress. So this is the blouse number 1 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I was just really admiring the look and style of this. It's a long sleeve top, so it's not, it's not a t-shirt, it's not an overly summer item, but I am using a summery yarn, so it's really more of a shirt than a sweater. And yeah, I just really like the style of it. It has kind of a high boat neck, it has raw rolled edges, and the sleeve flares out just a little bit, and the garment itself is pretty fitted. It actually has negative ease, I believe. I don't often knit garments with negative ease, but yeah, I really wanted to give this a go, and I'm actually nearly done. So I'm knitting the size small, and I am using the Rowan Cotton Revive. So this is a yarn we just got in this year as well, one of our new seasonal yarns, and it's a blend of 80% recycled cotton and 20% recycled other fibers. I don't know what those fibers are, but I'm guessing they're mostly a mix of plant materials. It doesn't feel woolly at all. I don't feel any alpaca or mohair or anything. It feels to me like a plant fiber yarn, but it has this really nice chain construction, and so it makes it a little loftier, I think, and I also think it's going to make it wear well. So far, I'm very happy with the fabric that it's creating. So the color I have is color number 4, which is Sienna, and it's this lovely kind of burnt orange. And I have made lots of progress, you guys. So, where's the front? Ah, this is the front. So this is the garment, and I'm so far very happy with the yarn, the pattern, the fit. The pattern's super easy. It's on a 5mm needle, so that's part of why I have found it so fast. And it's almost entirely just the knit stitch, actually, because it has rolled edges. So you're just knitting, knits in the round, which is very fast. Here's a kind of a close-up. So I will definitely report that this yarn works well on a 5mm needle. I've seen it knit on a 4mm needle, looking quite lovely as well. For some reason, the ball band specifically recommends a 3.75mm, but I don't know why, because it actually looks great on a 5mm. This is not holey or loose at all. I think the gauge works really well. So it's behaving almost like a worsted weight in this case. I'm very happy with the fabric that it's created. It feels drapey, but bouncy. It feels sturdy. So I'm keen to see how it wears. I'm partway down my first sleeve, and then I only have one more sleeve to go, and then I'll be done, because you leave the edges just raw. So I'm really into this one. Excited to finish soon because I want to wear it pretty much right now. So yeah, I started with 4 balls of the Rowan Cotton Revive, and this is where I'm at on my 3rd ball, and I have an entire one left. So I may get away with 3, or I might crack in a little bit to the 4th. But yeah, not too bad, because these balls of yarn are 100 grams, and they have 250 meters per ball, so pretty good meterage. So that is my blouse number 1. Very, very happy with it. Okay, I've got one more project to show, and this is one that I just started a few days ago. And I'm using a pattern of mine which is called Driftless Mitts, the DK version. I'm not actually following the color work on the pattern, but I'm just using it as a template for a pretty basic fingerless glove pattern. There's a little kind of super easy little color work chart that goes along with the pattern, but other than that, it's just a well-fitting, you know, fingerless glove with raw edges as well. So this was a request from a friend actually, and I don't always take requests from people for knitting because, not because I don't want to, but because I only want to say yes if I know that I'll follow through, and I know that I have a lot of knitting to do for my job and for designing, and so I don't always know if I'm going to make the time to do just personal projects for friends. But this friend asked me for something very specific, and I just decided, yeah, of course I can do that. And I knew it wouldn't take too long, and because she wanted something so specific, I just wanted to meet that request. She has Raynaud's disease, where her hands, like the blood flow doesn't get to her hands very well, and so her hands get really, really cold and sort of impossible to warm up. Her extremities, they just get freezing, and there's like not much she can do about it. So she requested a pair of fingerless gloves. I guess her hands might still get cold. Anyway, she said fingerless, so that's what she wanted. And she asked it for me to make them very, very, very long, like up to her elbow. So my pattern normally is about this size. In fact, is exactly this size, the Driftless pattern. But I started them with a provisional cast on so that I can go back later and just knit this direction to a good length. So I've gotten both of them to this stage, and she requested, yeah, various shades of green and blue. So I found in my stash tons of leftover green and blue Possum Merino yarns. So all of these so far are Possum Merino blends, and yeah, just kind of going from lighter to darker. And then I've got these colors here, the blues, to go for the rest of the mitt. The only one that's not a Possum Merino is this one. This is Woolly DK. Otherwise, this is Zelana Rimu. This is Brushtail Possum, the Brushtail yarns. And then I have a couple leftovers from my long distance yarns from a jumper I made. And yeah, just putting all of those beautiful colors together. They're very soft and very warm. And like I said, I've completed the upper portion of the mitts. I did those also in just a few days of knitting. They're very quick. It's just stockinette in the round on a pretty small circumference. And then on this one, I have since picked up the stitches to start knitting down. And I decided from trying this on and trying to slide it up my arm that I'm going to need to add a couple of increases to fit better on this portion of the forearm. So I've just introduced an increase here with the stitch marker, and I'll just try it on as I go and add however many increases it seems to need. But yeah, I think they're going to be really pretty and really fun, and hopefully exactly what she wants. I will be giving these to her next week, and so they will be gone before I do another podcast episode, but I'll try to make sure to get a nice finished photo of them. If I get a nice photo, I'll insert it into the next video so you can see how they turn out. But yeah, I'm happy with that project. It's nice when someone wants something specific as a knitter to be able to fulfill that request. I know she'll appreciate them, so that's quite nice. So yeah, that is my Driftless mitts, patterned by me, but modified to suit her needs. Okay, so that is it for the knitting content. I wanted to briefly mention a couple of sewing projects that I've done lately. I've never talked about sewing on this channel before because it's not something I've actually been doing very much of. I do technically have sewing skills, but I don't sew often. I haven't enjoyed the process as much as I enjoy the process of knitting. I'm also not very familiar with following sewing patterns, so I feel a little out of my depth there. But years ago, maybe 10 years ago, when we lived in Montana, I did have a job for maybe 8 or 9 months where I worked for a seamstress, and she had her own business where she would do repairs and alterations for people essentially. So in order for me to help her, she had to basically teach me everything over the course of that job. So I learned a ton about sewing. I mean, we were fixing people's tents, dealing with waterproof fabric. She had one of those giant, heavy, old treadling sewing machines with like a thick needle specific for leather work. So she showed me some leather work techniques. We were hemming pants, we were repairing holes in items, we were doing all sorts of stuff. And so back then, you know, I sewed myself like a tailored fitting kind of collared shirt. So I learned all of these technical skills many years ago, but I just, as I say, I haven't developed a love for the process of sewing the way that I love the process of knitting. I think partly it's a lack of confidence, and I'm sort of nervous that if I cut the fabric wrong, it'll go to waste. Whereas with knitting, you can knit it wrong and just unravel it and reuse the yarn. So all that is to say that I have been wanting to get into more sewing for quite a while now, because there are items I'd like to have in my wardrobe that I can't find in a store. So I want to sew myself more clothing. So I have 2 skirts. The first one was from, I think, a McCall's pattern. It was one of the big brands for sewing patterns. And I just thought this fabric was quite beautiful. So I don't remember the pattern. I tried to rifle around and find it at my house today. Could not find it. But it's just a basic McCall's pattern, I think. And partway through, I also just started improvising anyway because I got confused. So it's just a basic skirt. But this is it. Let me take this off. I'm not going to try it on for you, but it's got an elasticated waist. It actually has pockets, like the kind that are invisible. And, oh, that's the back. And it's just very long. It's quite a lot of fabric. It's a full-length skirt. And yeah, it just feels pretty awesome to have items of clothing that I sewed, and it's really making me want to do more sewing. So I've started another skirt, which I'm nearly done. I just have to pick up the correct elastic from the sewing shop today. But this is the Peppermint Pocket Skirt, so I will insert a photo of the pattern. It's a pattern from Paper Theory that was published in Peppermint magazine years ago for free. I checked their website, and I do believe you have to pay for the pattern now, but I got it back when it was free. And this is one of the easiest things to sew ever. I mean, I did all this in one day, other than the elastic, which I still have to buy. But I have this beautiful linen fabric, which I bought from the fabric store NZ, which is an online and in-person shop. We have, the in-person shop is downtown here, and then I always order fabric from them online. So I have a little stack of particularly linen fabrics that I've ordered for them over time. So nice to finally use this. I think this one was called something maple or something chestnut or something like that. I checked their website, but I don't think they have it anymore, but I think it's a really beautiful mauvey kind of color. And yeah, this is my skirt. So not quite finished again because I'm waiting for, oh, that's the back, waiting for the elastic, but maybe I'll show you again when I actually finish it for real. But it's got these deep pockets, and the pockets are sort of built into the design, so they're super, super easy to sew. And then, yeah, I just have to insert the elastic, and then I'll have another nice linen skirt. So I don't know if any of you out there sew. I know this is a knitting podcast, but a lot of knitters sew and a lot of sewists knit. And, you know, I have so many hand knit sweaters and tops in my wardrobe, but I don't particularly want to wear knitted pants or knitted skirts. Maybe I would knit a skirt, but what I really want are sewn, you know, bottoms. So it's very nice to be able to also, you know, knit things for the top, sew things for the bottom, knit socks, the whole thing. So hopefully there will be more sewing in my future, and as and when that happens, I will mention it here if that's something that's interesting to people. And yeah, but in the meantime, that is all of the knitting content, all the sewing content. That's everything I've been up to craft-wise. And thank you for all the great feedback on my Ravelry video. I appreciated that so much. I really want that to be a useful resource for people. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time. Bye!